What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Leonard Ellerbie. Leonard Ellerbie proclaims that Gervonta Tank Davis is bigger than all of those guys combined. And when he means all of those guys, he's referring to Devin Haney, he's referring to Teofimo Lopez, and he's referring to King Ryan Garcia. Now, let me counterpunch. Leonard Ellerbie is a decent promoter. You know, he does what he does for certain fighters. You know, he's done a good job with Tank Davis, or a decent job with Tank Davis. And he is doing his job continuously trying or attempting to promote Tank Davis. And there's no doubt about it. He's promoting Tank Davis. He's doing his job. But my problem is with Gervonta Tank Davis and Leonard Ellerbie, and not really Gervonta. You can't blame Gervonta for that. Gervonta is 26 years old. You can tell he's not on a level that he can take charge of anything. We know that. He's in charge. He is in the hands of Leonard Ellerbie and Floyd Mayweather. When they say jump, he says how high. They tell him to run, he says where. Those type of things, okay? Now, Leonard Ellerbie is promoting his fighter. And what I don't get about Leonard is, why are you talking about the star power or credibility of a fighter when that fighter hasn't deemed himself credible? See, all these smoke and mirrors need to stop in the sport of boxing. It's the sport that I love, that I hate so much because of this reason. Okay. Leonard Ellerbie is saying, and what he's doing is, he's proclaiming like, hey, my fighter's bigger than all those fighters. In other words, what he's saying is, my fighter is bigger than those fighters, therefore he doesn't need to fight those fighters. Therefore, he's already over those fighters without even having to fight them. That's the problem in fighting, in the sport of boxing. Why are you worried about making a fighter credible or having more credibility without even fighting anybody? That doesn't even make sense. Those are the guys, that's the rivals. Those are the guys you need to worry about making. You're trying to already one-up those guys by saying, well, hey, this guy has more star power or marketability. Who gives a shit if they don't fight anybody? Leonard Ellerbie is doing that Floyd Mayweather shit when they were comparing Floyd to Manny. We didn't give a shit who was bigger or not at the time. We just wanted you guys to fight. You know, instead of trying to convince people that, hey, this is the bigger fighter, you know, this fighter's marquee value is bigger. So what? What else is it? Okay, if Gervonta Tank Davis is so much bigger, okay, what is he going to do that's actually big? What is he going to do? Who is he going to fight? Mario Barrios, a guy, okay, I've heard of him a couple times. I've seen a fight or two of his. But I mean, is he any of the guys that we talk about and then promote? And it seems like if it wasn't for the other guys, Gervonta Tank Davis would just be another name there. Wouldn't he not? Think about it. All these guys are doing the same stuff. All they're doing is they're talking about the possibility of fighting these rivals, but at the same time, they're not fighting the rivals. So you get those guys and get them talking about fighting a particular fighter, which they never end up fighting, but in terms, they raise their marquee value of clout chasing each other's name. So regardless of who sold the most tickets in this arena this given day or whatever, it doesn't really matter because no one is fighting anybody else. Since nobody's fighting anybody else, it comes to a point where you're like, okay, well, why are we looking at this fighter? That's why they keep having to keep talking about other fighters that they know fans want to see, because they know that's the only way without fighting those guys. You have to clout chase. You have to name drop. If you can't name drop, if you can't clout chase, then you really don't have anything else to do besides fight the guy that everybody wants to see. But they don't want to do that because it's too much of a risk. The risk is, hey, what if Gervonta Tank Davis is not as good as people think he is? I think that's the major fear in a lot of these promoters. They don't want to put that cash cow or whoever, that potential cash cow, on the line right now because they're afraid that he'll lose. They're concerned. They're worried. They have doubt. That's what it's about. If they knew these fights were going to easily happen and they make a shitload of money, that's what it is. And they don't want to put that fighter out there without making the money. Okay? They don't want to do that. So if they put King Ryan Garcia in there with Gervonta Tank Davis, and Davis lost and it flopped, they would lose 2 times. They would lose because, hey, they took that O, so that goes against the Mayweather credo, and plus it didn't sell what they thought it was going to be. And then they felt they could have built it up more. But the problem with these fighters and with the Al Heyman philosophy is it doesn't really matter how much you build a fight. If the fight's already desirable, you don't have to build it too much. And I think that's their problem. They want, at the end of the day, to build and build and build and build and build. But what ultimately ends up happening each and every time, somebody gets beat. Either it's the guy they want to fight or their fighter. Okay, it happens all the time in the sport. So where Leonard Ellerbie's talking and screaming and promoting that my fighter's bigger, he's at the same time saying we don't need those fighters because we're already bigger than those fighters. That's all he's saying. But the reality is he does need those fighters if he wants to be viewed worth a shit. Because what ends up happening, and he goes up to 140, he'll never fight a guy like Regis Prograis. He won't. Unless Regis Prograis looks very bad, and then they're like, okay, let's jump on him because we can make him look good, just like they did Gamboa. You know, let's be real. Gamboa was 38 years old. He could have had Gervonta Tank Davis. He could have had him. Okay? Look, Gamboa ain't looked good in a long time. And it's been a long time ago since he stepped ring in there with Terrence Crawford. Let's just be real. Okay? And Terrence Crawford stopped him. All right? So that's when he was undefeated, but that was a long time ago. Very long time ago. 7-8 years ago. You know what I mean? That put Gamboa, at 30, 31? That man is almost 40 years old now. So that's your claim to fame? Really? That's your claim to fame? With him beating a little Santa Cruz and all these little guys? That's his claim to fame. That's what makes him bigger. And in hindsight, if Floyd Mayweather wanted to go that route for fighting little guys, he wouldn't have been who he is today. So what they're doing with Tank is a mistake. They need to put Tank in there with all those guys. Then he could be reviewed as the biggest and the best. But they're just worried about being the biggest, not necessarily the best. Because in their mind, what is the best is the most money that they can accumulate. But they won't ever accumulate the money unless they fight the best. So that's my counterpunch on Leonard Ellerbie stating that Gervonta Tank Davis is bigger than all these guys combined. You guys tell me what you think. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.